Hey guys, it's me, Waffle Dog, and I'm coming at you with something from World of Tanks that's a little bit different from my previous video. Rather than just being a tank replay, it's going to be a full tank review of the M36 Jackson. This is a tank that I'm not 100% sure how to feel about, but I'm pretty sure it is my new favorite Tier 6 tank destroyer, and I'm here to tell you why. Now, when you're looking at tank destroyers, the most important thing to look at is the gun and how it performs. So, I've got a few of the best, in my opinion, for the tier tank destroyers in my garage, and we're going to look at how the guns of them compare and how the rest of them compare, in like talking about the speed, the maneuverability, soft stats, maybe even, etc. So, these are three of the main powerhouse tier 6 tank destroyers, I'd say. I wouldn't really include the Hellcat as much anymore. I think the Jackson's gun is slightly better at this point in time, and I think the Hellcat's speed doesn't make up for it. So we have the Nashorn, the SU-100, and the Jackson, in my opinion, three of the more competitive tier 6 TDs. The Hellcat, I'm going to do that a lot this video. The Jackson has the second best fire rate, and tied for the lowest of these three's damage with this 90 caliber AT gun M3. Decently accurate at .35 dispersion at 100 meters with a really nice 1.7 second aiming time. And I even have a gun lane drive on this, so that's accentuated even more. You get, or not, no I don't. I do. I have a gun lane drive on this, so that is accentuated even more. So you can really take some crazy snapshots with this vehicle. And I do not believe there are any vents for it, which is the reason I have the coated optics as well. Let me check to be sure. Yep, and there's no options for vents on this, so this is the best layout if you're not going to be playing like a traditional tank destroyer, which is the way I like to play the tank. Now, comparing it to the Nashorn also obviously has the better gun with faster fire rate, better penetration, and a more accurate gun. Slightly less aiming time, but that's irrelevant. However, this tank over here is literally made of paper mache. You can sneeze on this tank and it will die. I really like my Nashorn, however, I don't think it's as competitive due to its complete lack of armor, and you really just have to stick to one play style. The Jackson is much more flexible. You can play it like a traditional TD, you can play it as a more frontline or support tank. It does it all. And then we finally have the SU-100 over here with its 122mm D25S gun. This is the gun that the KV-1S used to have before it was wiped from the face of the earth and put in its place at tier 5 with the very crappy derpy 122 gun instead. It has .43 dispersion, but it's Russian accuracy, you know, so it's actually pretty... You'll hit most of your shots in this tank. 175 pen, which is good for the tier. Somewhat low fire rate, but considering the massive alpha damage, it's not important, and a long aiming time of 2.9 seconds. However, both the Nashorn and the SU-100 do not have this turret that the Jackson has. Looking at some more stats for it, 590 hit points, that's healthy enough, but that's still, you can get 2-shot by the OI experimental at tier 5, so you want to watch out for those bigger tanks. It's got a decent power to weight ratio of approximately 14.29, so it's not sluggish, but it's not very quick either. It's just kind of an average. It feels like a slow medium tank when you drive it around. 370 view range, which is actually 407 as we can see here when I have my coated optics. That's very healthy for tier 6 TDs. And you will be pinning most of your stuff with your standard rounds, but if you can't, you have that 243 penetration APCR, which will go through everything that you will face like butter. Even tier 8 heavies that are really well armored like a KV-4, you will just cut right through it like a lightsaber cutting a piece of bread and making a toast. So there's not too much to talk about in the ways of armor here. We're gonna go into armor review in a second here to talk about it more, but just looking at the the base stats here in World of Tanks, 114 hull armor at that common angle. You're gonna bounce some stuff here, but it's not gonna be all that great. And then the turret's 76, but it's not the best either. So now let's jump into the tanks.gg tank viewer so we can do some more in-depth analysis of this vehicle. Alright guys, now we're in the tanks.gg World of Tanks tank viewer, and we're going to look at some more in-depth stats on the Jackson so we can really start picking this vehicle apart. As we can see, it's got healthy gun depression and elevation of 10 degrees depression and 20 degrees elevation. That'll get it done at most points. A little thing to keep in mind is because the turret is more far forward on the tank than back, you will have a little bit less depression towards the rear. But if you're getting shot in the rear with this very weak side and rear armor, you are basically dead already with your very slow reverse speed as well. You're not going to turn around extremely fast in this tank. Having a look at the 3D model, we can see more in depth what the armor is actually like. See the 100. We can see that the 114 millimeters of armor is really only in this little lower plate right here. This up here is actually, I believe it's the 51 section up here. So you're only really getting about 90 mil if you're angling optimally, which is none at all. Basically, you don't want to get shot in the sides because being overmatched in a World of Tanks, you need to have a gun that has 3 times the caliber of the number of your side armor. So having 25 millimeters of side armor means that a gun that is 75 millimeters will pin this, no matter the angle. If it's like this, you'll still pin this. You can't auto bounce at this angle for anything that's 75 millimeters or greater. And there's a lot of guns at tier 6 and higher that do have that type of gun. You can pull off some miracle bounces on tier 4s and some tier 5s, but that's about it. The lower plate here, it's for some reason very thick, 114 millimeters. You'll get some random bounces. There's some weird zones like 209 there, 208 there. So be somewhat cautious if you have a lower pin gun shooting this thing. And then moving on to the gun, the mantlet's strong in some areas, but once again, you don't want to rely on it. You got some good areas of like 300. The World of Tanks armor can be confusing, but up here it's all 88, even though you still got kind of some 114 millimeters armors there. And then like where the spaced armor is where it's strongest, honestly. If you're getting shot there, there's a good chance you're going to bounce, but at the same time you don't want to ever rely on it. And then your cheeks here are butter. You're not going to ever pin anything there. And yeah, that's it. So let's get on to the gameplay and see how this thing performs in the battlefield. Alright guys, now we're moving on to this gameplay. This is going to be my ace tanker on Live Oaks in my Jackson. And I think it really showcases how the tank can both be played in a TD type role, and you can also start scrapping it out with other tanks if it really comes down to that. Now, before we load in, you can see this is a pretty healthy matchup for us. Top tier, not too many tanks we need to worry about, too many danger tanks. Let's go ahead and turn off the show vehicle tier setting here. And basically, the only tanks we really need to worry about on this team are going to be the KV-85, the M36 OI, who can penetrate us if he gets a good shot on us. Then who else would we really need to worry about here? T-3045 if he gets around us due to our very poor turning speed and turret traverse. That could be bad as well. And that's basically most of their tier 6s are the danger tanks on their team, so we'll have to watch out for them. So from the northeast spawn on Live Oaks, what you want to do, if you have a good amount of heavies, which we do, we have enough, we want to try and take the town. However, we will see later in this game that their greater number of heavies will end up giving them the advantage. You obviously can't play the Jackson in the same way you play a Hellcat due to their insanely different top speeds. The Hellcat can really shift and can do a lot in terms of repositioning. The tank has a very high skill ceiling. You can really do a lot with that vehicle. Jackson's not exactly the same. You're somewhat limited by your speed, but as you can see here, I'm keeping up with the medium tanks. Leopard's going to get past me, but it's not that slow. So, what we're going to do here on this southern railway line, there are a very small number of tanks here, really. The only ones that are really going to make an impact are me, the Leopard, and my platoon mate, Big Money Galaxy. He's back. A really nice position that I like to take up here, which I will, is getting right behind this bush on this ridgeline, and we've already spotted one of their Jacksons. I'm pretty sure he spotted me there as well, but I don't think I noticed it at this point in the gameplay. We're going to try and work our 10 degrees of gun suppression and get some shots off. Sadly, we missed our first one, but it wouldn't be World of Tanks, so I didn't miss my first shot of the game, and my second shot, most likely. The Chaffee tries to charge in, but ends up getting shot at by our team, and our Leopard finishes him off. Nail a shot right into the Jackson. You can see that frontal hull armor at the top is not really great. I do have a lot of penetration, 160. It's pretty decent for tier 6, but there's no chance of me bouncing that shot with how well it was aimed. And he goes ahead and pins me right back through that 114 millimeter zone of armor. for another shot on the Jackson. It's kind of thin, but I nail it. The gun is very accurate, and you can see with this gun lane drive, I'm not sure if it's overkill or not, but I'm aiming these shots super fast. That one was not even on the target though, so it was never going to hit unless it RNG decided to guide my shell down into him. So we got him until the Black Prince and probably a couple other tanks back there. They might have some slower heavies coming our way. That's an unlucky shot there. The Ram 2 is not a very heavily armored tank. The Tier 5, I do believe it's premium. Yeah, it is premium. Medium tank. Gonna look for another shot on him, hopefully finish him off. Low slightly roll. It's kind of sad that he was left on that little health, but that does allow the Leopard to finish him off, nailing another kill. Now we got a Matilda Black Prince up here for sure, but I'm not sure what else. At this point in the game, I'm thinking, okay, I may be on low hit points, but if it's only a Matilda Black Prince, I can definitely handle him in this tank. That's exactly what I'm going to go do. But then, 2 Tier 5 heavy tanks show up. And while they are some danger, they can one-shot me if they manage to somehow roll high enough. I think I'm okay to do this. I look for a shot. This aiming time is insane on this tank with the gun lane drive. And I nail him. I look for a shot on T1 heavy. That was almost fully aimed, honestly. And I nail him as well. When we're really starting to rack up the damage, we've already done over 1,000. Kind of an unlucky bounce. It almost looked like the shell curved there at the very end, didn't it? And the Matilda Black Prince is playing a little aggressively on me here, so I have to teach him a lesson. As the KV-1 misses a shot on me. We are losing the town at this point. We only have one of our Tier 6 heavies left, and he is going to die as well. Matilda Black Prince goes through my turret, I believe, with that APCR. Yeah, but he didn't need to fire that there. He could have pinned me with his standard rounds. As you can see from all those damage numbers flying off the T1 heavy, the Leopard has gotten behind him, and the KV-1's not responding. That's a pretty easy penetration there, right through the drive wheel, inside drive wheel, right into his side. With 160 pin, you can do those kind of things with this gun. He's looking right at me, so I let the Leopard go in on him instead. Sadly, he doesn't get him quite low enough for me to get the finishing blow off. Thankfully, my teammate puts a shot into him before I do, so we can get the kill. The last remaining take on this flank is the T1 heavy, and he's not going to be too hard to finish off. He's on 51 health. In fact, what I'm thinking right now, and my teammate is thinking as well, is that we should head back and let the Leopard finish him off. That's exactly what we do. I did a much worse job than my teammate of handling my hit points on this flank. I let myself get shot a lot of times for basically nothing, especially from that Jackson. That was the big one. And you can really see here in this gameplay how that 590 hit points, while it is not the worst, it's not so great either. You really need to be careful in these low to mid-tier matches and TDs because you have so few hit points. If you ever have the chance to not get shot, or if you ever have the chance of making a trade, a one-for-one trade, you generally don't want to take in a tank like the Jackson. The only tank I'd really recommend doing that in that's a TD at this tier would be the SU-100 or the SU-100Y, tanks with that gigantic alpha damage where you could even one-shot lower tier targets. So here we're making sure to stay behind this ridge line as our Leopard goes to cap and hopefully draw some of them back. Once again, I'm demonstrating the fact that this tank really isn't that slow. I'm doing 40 pretty standard as a pretty standard speed. It kind of reminds me of if you take the Centurion 7-1 tank and gave it a bit more DPM and put it at tier 6. I spotted that T-28, but he doesn't spot me. He's a T-28. He does not have the view range to see me. And we nail the kill as my platoon mate finishes him off. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be more heavies coming this way, but I think they learned their lesson after seeing that T-28 die. And I'm starting to get a little worried here since we haven't spotted anyone at all that the Leopard might die while capping. It is good that he's doing this. That's the best play for him to make. And there's the Wolverine, sure enough, coming back to defend his cap. He finishes off the Leopard, and that just leaves me and my platoon mate to finish off the game by ourselves in a 2v4 situation. At this point, I'm getting pretty nervous. I'm not exactly sure what to do. If they had more hit tanks that were coming out from the town, I would have died right here because they would have spotted me as they came along right there where the T-28 was. They would have been able to spot me at that point. Luckily for me, that's not what they decided to do, as we'll see in a moment. I'm kind of getting a little confused here. I'm wondering where they could be, waiting for my teammate to tell me where to go or what to do, because at this point I'm honestly lost. I don't know where they have gone. I'm baffled. So now I'm heading back towards their cap down this railway line to see if they're trying to double back along with this Wolverine and look to make a flanking run on us, because we haven't really moved much since the start of the match. We've just kind of been in this, if you were to cut the map in half diagonally, this is where we've been the whole match, just around here. And it's worked. I've done 2,000 damage. That's more than enough to be considered a good contribution to the team, and especially for a player of my stats, I'll take games like these any day. Finally spot one of the tanks, the KV-85, who is a one-shot. We could just fire an HE shell into him and probably kill him. But he dips behind the hill before I can get a shot off, and even with my amazing aiming time on this tank, I'm not able to finish him. Moving into position to get some shots on this KV-85 and this Wolverine now that they've both been spotted. And I'm a little confused as to where the Grant and OI are, but I'm not too worried because the OI is very slow, and the Grant, if we look at his stats, he's a brand new player. I'm not too worried about him doing much to me. I'm sure I'll be able to outplay him. Get unlucky there with the KV-85. As I said, 0.35 accuracy on this gun. It's decent, but not great. You will miss shots like that from time to time, especially at mid to long ranges. They're very thin like that. I'm kind of getting a little worried that someone will come up behind me, but there's the Wolverine cresting the ridge, going for the kill. Very unwise move on his part. We're going to use the DPM of this gun to reload and finish off this KV-85. Nope. The Jagdpanzer finishes him off with his quicker reload. Here comes the Grant. As I was saying, he's not going to be able to make a good play here. He just comes right over the bridge. Very unwise decision. Don't use these railroad tracks like that. You want to go around them one way or the other, depending on the situation. This game's pretty much in the bag at this point as long as I don't muck up. It's just the OI left. And while he is very heavily armored, I think that my teammate and I can handle him. He can one-shot either of us if he gets us in the side with his derp gun, so we have to be wary of that. If he is running the derp gun, I don't know if that's the gun that you get at tier 6, or if that's not till tier 7. It looks like it is the derp gun though, and it is a big one at that, so we'll have to be very careful. That's a bad shot there. With AP into that part of the hole, you're not going to pin. And my Jumbo says to fire APCR, and that's exactly what I do. Nail one into his turret right there, and we're just picking him apart at this point. There's very little he can do other than just go for the kill on me. And with this amazing APCR penetration of 243, I'm able to go straight through his drive wheel into the bottom of his tank. He misses a shot on me, which is lucky, and I finish him off. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the post-game stats. Okay guys, now we're taking a look at our post-game stats from that Jackson game. As you can see, we did nab our ace tanker and got a really nice amount of XP, 5,900. It was a ×3 weekend though, and of course we also got our top gun. We finished top of the team in experience, as to be expected, and damage. No one really came close to us. The KV-85 had a monster game, but as they say, there can only be one winner. Looking at the detailed report here, we did make money even though we fired a few APCR shells that game. We nailed most of our shots, but we also missed a few. And look at this, we only dealt one shot of damage from more than 300 meters, so we were really getting up in there and doing some brawling fighting rather than sniping like the traditional tank destroyer. What else is there to really say about the Jackson? I do acknowledge the fact that it is not really the best tank at tier 6 in terms of TDs. I know that maybe the Hellcatter and the Shorn are the best, per se. But for me personally, this tank fits my playstyle more than any other at tier 6. And it is definitely my favorite, and I would recommend you grab one. It's not a difficult grind to tier 6 whatsoever. If you're already an experienced player that just happens not to have the tank, you can use some free XP to get through those lower tiers, and then tanks before it aren't bad at all. Tier 4 and 5 especially are pretty decent machines. And one final little note, if you were looking in the garage and you saw my username, you may have noticed it used to be Quoth here, but I have changed it to Waffle Dog just to make everything a little bit easier to understand. It's a little weird not having the same username as your actual YouTube name, so I have modified that. So that's all for my Jackson tank review. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, you know what to do. leave a like, leave a subscribe maybe, and I'll bring you some more of this good content. And if you didn't like it, you also know what to do. Leave the video a dislike. That's okay. And if you all have any kind of constructive criticism whatsoever, I would love to hear it in the comment section because I need every little bit I can get to make these videos better. Thanks. Bye.